start that screen record, and we can kick it off. So welcome, thanks for making the time. Everyone who's come in. I will be going through what we have so far, state of the game, state of the universe, as it were, just kind of from start to 1%, I guess. And we'll be asking for you guys' feedback towards the end, or of course, if you have feedback throughout, just feel free to share that. But really, just looking for feedback around visually, how do things look? Does the layout of things make sense? What could be better? What would you like to see, etc., etc. Because we are still very much working on things. So you come to VERZ, you hit login, you create your account, and then the first thing you're going to need to do is create a character. So creating a new character from scratch. We have four playable races at current: the Kodai, the VERZ, the Maran, and the Taak. Each of you, of course, have their own unique lore, starting abilities, etc., etc. I'm going to go ahead and choose Kodai today. The first thing that we really want to do to make people more unique, choose your own portrait. So you get to choose from a couple predefined portraits, but even then you can turn on and off certain features, like the gems on the forehead, for example. So like little things, just so that your character can really be your character. So we'll go with that for the sake of time. Garlic. Nobody hates garlic. So once you've created your character, you'll come to the navigation. And here we are in the navigation. The first thing you'll notice, that is an awfully small navigation screen. You cannot see much on this navigation screen besides the planet, a couple platforms, and a couple other people around. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to open up my shipyard tab and equip a slightly larger scanner just so I can see more. And this is another thing that is going to be really unique to our game, to be able to really change the way you play the game based on the equipment that you have on your ship, and to really fine tune a lot more options besides what guns do I need. So here we see a larger screen. We see a good number of people of the team floating around. We've got a couple of people in orbit around the planet, and in orbit around this building as well, and in orbit around the wormhole. So you'll notice that the ships are minimized, and it basically has a 2x2 grid above any planet or wormhole or building. So you can see at a glance some of the largest ships that are in orbit around that item, instead of having to go over that building to see, oh, everyone's here, nobody's here. Great. Looking at some of the ships we have present, the ship that I'm in currently is the Coryphena. This is the starting ship of the Kodai. You'll notice it's rather fish-like looking, that being very consistent with the lore of the Kodai. And I'll just cycle through a couple of the other ships. So we have the Drifter. This is the prototype humanoid ship. You'll notice that it's an asymmetrical design, and so we created two separate renders for when it's facing kind of left-right, as relative as directions exist in space. We've got the Strider, very long, sleek-looking ship. The Skulker, again, sleek interceptor-style ship. The Coryphena, as I mentioned. The Goober fish, because there always has to be a bigger fish. We remember that one. The Microcline. The S-14 Moth, a very stealth-inspired ship. This is the starting ship of the Maran race, being a very kind of science and technologically driven race. And then this is the Aeshirer 2, very imposing looking. This is the starting ship of the Taak, who are very bellicose, or shall we say plain race. Not plain, aggressive, assertive race. But bellicose is the best word for that. So you can see in real time a couple of the teammates are creating buildings and destroying buildings around here, which is super cool. And then we have a starbase down here. When you want to interact with a starbase or a building or whatnot, we would open up this local info tab here on the left, and this will tell us everything about what's going on where we are. So it says what's here in Naboon Station, here are my actions available for Naboon. It tells you the tile that Naboon is built on, in case that wasn't obvious, and it'll tell you the other pilots that are at that building or that base, again in real time. And this is even true in open space. You can see we've got two people just sitting in open space. Because my ship is larger than theirs, it's covering right now to my view, but I can see that they're here, and I can hail, attack, and see, and you get a little feed down here that Woodmo has hailed me. And so that's true of really any tile type you can interact with here on the left-hand side. So let's go ahead and take a jump through to Primero. Oh, I lack the hyperdrive. So one thing that's, of course, essential for space travel is a drive. Different drives have different functions. I'm going to equip all three for the sake of this demo, and we will go through Primero, local info, jump. So we find ourselves here in a new sector, rendering in some. Our guiding principle, I think, with new sectors would best be say we want larger sectors, sectors that some you can get to a place and have little point of reference of where you might be to really spark a sense of adventure and of exploration as you go through. So here's Primero 2, the planet, and here is a jump gate. So jump gates will function kind of like X-holes, basically. This is the closest analogy to. You have to have, of course, a jump drive to use these, but you would be able to go to all the places that they list. These are more flexible than X-holes in that one jump gate can take you to. They won't be limited to certain sectors. Or rather, they won't be limited to only certain sectors within neutral clusters, but it will be defined where you can go, where you can travel with them. Let's see, we see here some asteroid tiles, a star, a very large star. Um, Ultimately, a big feature of this game we want is to have stars as an interactable, an important part of the game. I don't know if I'm able to mouse to fly through this. Ah, I can fly through it right now. Ultimately, I don't think this is gonna fly, but this is a really cool conception of having a star and B an object that is larger than a one by one tile. Um, Later down the line, we'll kind of have defined interactions of if we take damage or if you gain energy from proximity to the star. But for now, let's go back through this jump gate as we see. Let's just point that out one more time. One location from this jump gate, multiple locations from this jump gate. So they can kind of, in essence, function like a faster way to get out from a homeworld sector to other chunks of a sector or a cluster and back. Let's see. This is the one. So I've come through this jump gate to Vela, but the jump gate is inactive. So I'm stuck. Oh no. But that's okay because I have a warp drive as well. And so what a warp drive allows you to do is pick your coordinates and go wherever. And I've teleported myself straight into dense energy. Can't move. Hopefully I have the AP to move back to Naboon. Fantastic. I did have that. Now that we're back here, let's just explore some different features of the interface. We've got ship status, and this is going to be your basic where you are, your chronocycles left, your credits available, what are you carrying, and your ship condition, as well as some other items down the line once we get those. Fantastic. And then we'll have local info. The building interface right now is of course very simple. Create a building. It's very unfulfilling, so much for your dreams. But you can create the buildings right now. And eventually they'll be more modular in style. This is kind of a building platform. And you would add modules to it to make it have certain functions. Would be that. That's as far as interacting with the galaxy. As far as you interacting with your console, we have a couple built-in settings. One of my favorites, dark and aether, just in case you just are a dark mode user. It's great. Native tile size, or rather in-game tile resizing, which is super helpful. I'm a big fan of 96 personally. It's the sweet spot right in the middle. Yeah, I would say that's most things. Michael, is there anything else that we should show off? Okay. Ooh, ah. So as we mentioned with stars, planets can be huge. It makes no sense for all planets to be the same size, right? So this is kind of our representation of a gas giant, planet taking up 3 by 3. And of course, on each aspect of the planet, you can still interact with it. Great. That is new and that is beautiful. I will say, the first demo, they did not get to see this. So shout out to you guys. Never before seen. Um, Gorgeous planet. With that said, let's just go ahead and jump back to Naboon, and I will now ask all my questions. How's that sound? Naboon 44. Fantastic. Here we are, sitting around. So I guess just I have a couple questions that I want to ask specifically, but generally, does anyone have any feedback or anything they're just dying to share? Sure. Pew 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 pew. Yeah, definitely looks like they're dogfighting. Sure. Cool. Um, if nobody has any more burning, very technical questions, I'd like to pivot back to looks because I'm not a very smart person, so that's what I understand. Um, how do we feel about just right now the layout of things, of having the main navigation menu vertically on the left, far left over here, and then having, your interactions here next to it, and then your navigation kind of centered, and then your static information on the right. Does that make sense? Could it be different? What do we feel about it? So for example, if we'd for these building instead of shoved to the top, maybe centered from top to bottom. Okay. Mm-hmm. That, that would make good sense. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Because certain things will make so much sense to us. Even the um, interaction local info here being on the left hand side um, is a result of the last demo feedback we got. It used to be on the right hand side, so you'd have something that you would interact with here. You'd have static information here, interact with nav, interact with local info. And it was discussed that perhaps if we just had everything would be interactive on one side and everything would be static on the other side, with the nav as kind of the grounding feature instead of having to constantly cross back and forth mentally would make a little more sense. So if you are big fans of that, congratulate or say thanks to the people who demoed this previously. If you hate it, feel free to send them angry messages. But yeah, it's that to say that getting feedback from you guys is really helpful because we can think one thing, but getting feedback from people who haven't been thinking about this and designing this for months is really helpful. Cool. So that's layout. As far as interaction, I know we kind of demoed a couple interactions of how ships will be able to see docked at planets or wormholes and whatnot, things like that, with the mini view, of course. the minimized here, and then having to jump. It's just interacting in general. What do we feel? Do we feel anything works particularly well? Is there anything that like it doesn't work? Are there any crazy ideas you think could be implemented on top of what we have right now as far as just interacting visually with the galaxy? Or ignore them. Yeah, yeah. Cross that bridge when you arrive. Um, Being conscious of time, we are at the end of our prescribed time. So I will say, I will ask, does anyone have any their thing they're dying to share? I mean, I'm definitely not in a rush, but I do want to be conscious of everyone's time. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share? So you mean the both of the wayfinding of if you want to get to this coordinate, you would take these tiles, that one, and also perhaps do you use it where you records which tiles you have visited already? Okay, cool. Because I that one's very helpful for Virex. uh, is it? Eh, they all run together in my head. I installed them all at once and said we're done. Beautiful. Beautiful. Um, Cool. Well, then it sounds like we've gotten to a good spot. Thank you, everyone, so much for making the time and checking out what we've got. We do hope that you will continue to follow along with our progress. And of course, always share ideas. Feedback is welcome. Feedback is a gift, they say at my company. Kind of a joke. Um, but yes, thank you all so much for coming. Have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, wherever you're logging in from. And we will all talk soon, okay? And I will be shortly posting the recording of this if you want to revisit it or to share your friends. Cool? Cool. Take care, everyone.